Dr. Ajay Sahai. Dr. Ajay Sahai is the Director General and CEO of the Federation of Indian Export Organizations, which is the apex export promotion organization in the country with direct membership of about 30,000 exporters from all over the country. Dr. Sahai was earlier joined to DGFT in the policy division of the Directorate General of Foreign Trade, where he played key role in the formulation of the foreign trade policy from 1996 to 2003. He was a member of the high-level task force of Government of India on EXIM policy. Dr. Sahai specializes in agreement on subsidies and countervailing measures of WTO. He has defended numerous anti-subsidy cases against India export products in European Union, USA, South Africa, Brazil and Canada. He has widely travelled, bringing with him ingredients of global exposure and providing critical inputs on India's paper on the ASEAN. He is a member of High-Powered Committee on Export Promotion Schemes constituted by the Department of Commerce. He has received appreciation from the World Bank for his contribution to Ease of Doing Business report for 2016, 2017 and 2018. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Dr. Ajay Sahai.
Good afternoon, everyone. Let me first thank IMA for giving me this wonderful opportunity to be here amidst all of you and compliment them for choosing an extremely relevant topic for the discussion today. We all know that India is the 6th largest economy and we clocked 2 trillion GDP in 2018. We are endeavoring to become a $5 trillion economy, which will make us the 3rd largest economy in the world. But the moot point is whether we will be able to achieve this milestone, particularly as GDP growth rate has slowed down. We are expected to be touching around close to 5% GDP growth this year. To achieve the 5 trillion mark, GDP has to go at a compound annual growth rate of over 11%. But I also draw encouragement from the fact that India has clocked 8% plus GDP growth on a sustained basis. We are also through some of the positive disruption of Indian economy like GST, demonetization, bankruptcy. I call them positive disruption because they did disrupt the economy, but they are extremely positive, beneficial for economy in the long run. I still feel that if the real GDP grows between 7 to 8%, we manage inflation to 3 and 3.5%. With exchange rate remaining stable, we can clock over 10% GDP growth on a sustained basis. I'm firmly of the view that we will be taking off it next 6 to 9 months' time. But to reach the milestone of $5 trillion, you require some structural changes in the economy. 55% of the population is dependent on the agriculture, which contribute to 15% of the GDP, and this needs to be corrected. The manpower dependent on agriculture has to move to manufacturing and to certain services like tourism, transport, and we have to see how quickly we can do it. The budget 2019 has identified 3 pillars to achieve 5 trillion economy, and one of them was structural change in the economy. The dwindling size of land holding, declining productivity, lack of use of technology, climatic change affecting farm yield and farmers' income, the lack of value chain in agriculture are some of the issues which needs to be corrected quickly and effectively. I also feel that there is need for more investment in infrastructure. It's a good news that government has talked about 102 lakhs crore of investment in infrastructure in next 6 financial year. Out of that, around 24 lakhs crore will be invested in energy sector, 19 lakh crore in roads, 16 lakhs crore in urban development, 13 lakhs crore in railways. The good news is that close to 42.7 lakhs crores of projects are already at different stage of implementation, and 32.7 lakhs crore of the project will be rolled out in next few years. But some of the states have still not decided on their plan, and I will request such states to roll out their plan quickly as we are running short of time. I also believe that if we want to reach 5 trillion mark, the gender contribution to GDP has to grow. Women today contribute to 40%, 8% of the population, and their share in GDP is less than 17%. If you look into the Southeast Asian economy and the advanced economy, the women contribution to GDP is between 45 to 48%. I feel that we need to put focus on girls' education, nutrition, health, give equal opportunity to the women, and provide vocational training to the housewives also to increase the contribution of female to the Indian economy. If we are able to take this 15% figure to 25%, I have no doubt that we will be reaching 5 trillion mark. One important issue for which we have to equip ourselves is the disruption which will be caused by technology. We are looking into the emergence of artificial intelligence, blockchain, robotics, Internet of Things, 3D printing, and all these will definitely disrupt the existing businesses, existing wealth, existing jobs. But they provide us an opportunity for creation of new jobs, maybe more jobs, maybe more value-added jobs for that. And that's why I personally believe that Darwin's theory of survival of the fittest has to be changed with the survival of the most adaptable, the most flexible one. And I also feel that there is no age bar to adapt the technology. If a lady in South India can learn computer at the age of 101, and if the Amma in Kerala can become the most literate women at the age of 96, and sure, all of us can absorb, assimilate the technology. But no country in the world has grown without a robust exports. And Adam Smith's theory and the book of The Wealth of the Nation substantiate that viewpoint till the 18th century, and his view are still relevant in today's world. The emergence of Southeast Asian economy, the Northeast Asian economies further substantiate that. Unfortunately, for a country like India, the share of exports in GDP has come down in last 8 to 10 years from 25% of the GDP to around 17% of the GDP. Last year, in 2018 calendar year, we have clocked $331 billion of merchandise exports and $204 billion of services exports. While the government says that in 5 trillion economy, export will contribute 1 trillion, they have not bifurcated how much will come from the services, how much will come from the merchandise. In FIEO, we are making projection that merchandise exports will move from 331 billion to 600 billion, and services export from 204 billion to 400 billion, both requiring compound growth rate of 10.5% and 9.25%. In fact, in services sector, we have done reasonably well. Our services growth is moving at around 10 to 11%. We have 3% of the global share in services. But the problem with the Indian services is that it is too much dependent on IT and IT-enabled services. These services contribute to roughly 65% of the total services export from the country. Further, there is very little diversification of IT and IT-enabled services exports. Our two major regions may be the North America and Europe. The good thing is that now we are attempting to move into the Southeast Asian economy and Northeast Asian economy, particularly in Japan, which has opened its gate for the IT professional. They are looking into immigration of around 1 lakh IT professional in Japan only. We also need to move up the value chain in IT sector. Unfortunately, India is not in the value-added segment of IT. We need to move quickly into that. The other sector where we are putting our hopes is the tourism sector. In fact, this is a sector where capital employment ratio is pretty high. 10 lakhs investment in tourism creates 5 jobs on a sustained basis. It is rather ironical that we as Indians spend more in overseas travel than what we earn as tourism earning. Our total tourism earning in 2018 was $29 billion, which is about 1% of our GDP. We need to take it to around 5% of the GDP. The other sector is definitely the education. We have best of IITs and IIM present in the country. We need to leverage on that. We also need to attract some of the best universities to come and set up their base in India. We have to provide them very liberal visas both to the students and to the faculty. We also need to look into how we can provide recognition to the online degrees, which is something which is not happening, though I do agree that there is need for certification of such degrees also. Tremendous possibility in the field of audio and visual pictures. The previous speaker has given you some thought on that. We are looking into the possibility of providing insurance cover to the film industry. We have to encourage private players to come into film schools and film colleges. Look into the franchisee mode for promoting Indian films abroad. So far as professional services are concerned, we have huge potential in the field of financial services and audit and accounting services, but many of the domestic regulation needs to be changed. We have to look into how quickly we can allow FDI in audit and account services, and also remove the cap on client base for audit and accounting firm. The government of India has identified 12 champion sectors, and they have arranged an outlay of around 5,000 crore for promoting these services. We need to look quickly on that if we have to take our services export to around $400 billion. To me, the greater challenges lies in promoting manufacturing export, that too because we are not seeing consistent growth in manufacturing. We see manufacturing growth for 2 months or so, and then there is a dip. I personally feel that unless we bring manufacturing on a sustained growth path, it won't be possible for us to reach such milestone either in terms of exports or reaching 5 trillion mark. We have to make manufacturing competitive, and therefore we have to look into our cost of credit, high logistics cost, high transaction cost, unskilling of workers, uncertainties of the policy. Though we are attracting a lot FDI, not much FDI is flowing into manufacturing. We know that we are the second largest market. We will be the largest market by 2030. We have median age of around 28. We have very competitive wages. Now our corporate tax rate is one of the most attractive one, but still the comfort of location to India is not there. That's something which we have told to the government. If you go to Vietnam, if you want to invest above certain $1 million, they earmarked an officer, and it is the job of the officer to provide you all authorization, all approval within a time-bound frame. We require such kind of culture in India, because we have to keep in mind foreign investor has many options. India is one of the options because of its huge market. Secondly, I feel that we need to provide what we call plug and play facility. We can't see that an investor comes to India and struggle with getting land for a year or so. If countries like Ethiopia, Kenya has developed plug and play facility where investors from Bangladesh in India are going to invest, why not India? And I think we need to look into that. Secondly, we have also to look into the investment in R&D. It gives me huge satisfaction that we are R&D capital of the world. 300 out of 500 Fortune 500 companies have their R&D base in India, but we are doing R&D for the overseas company, not for the Indian companies. Our R&D spending is 0.63% of the GDP, and when I look into my competing countries like Malaysia, Thailand, China, they spend close to 3% of the GDP on R&D. South Korea spent around 4.2%, Israel around 4.8%. It is rather ironical that tax deduction for R&D, which was around 200%, has been brought down to 150% and now 100%. R&D is a long gestation area, which is little risky also, and we need to incentivize R&D because R&D and product innovation is key to exports. One of the problem with Indian exports and achieving such milestone is the profile of India's exports also. Our exports are too much dependent on what we call employment intensive sectors of exports like leather, textile, agriculture products, marine. They're extremely important when you are talking about employment generation. But when you are looking into the big picture of exports, 50% of the global trade is happening in 5 segments, and these segments are electronics, electrical, machinery, automobile, and petroleum products. Unfortunately, in this segment, our export share is less than 0.7%, despite the fact that our share in petroleum exports is 2%. We have to accordingly put our focus where major global trade is happening if we want to achieve such milestone. A related point is the export of high technology products. In India, we are exporting high technology goods worth $20 billion only. Our competitor like Malaysia, they exports $90 billion of high technology export, Singapore 155 billion, South Korea 192 million, China around 650 billion. These are the countries which we have to emulate because unless you increase your high technology exports, it may not be possible for you to reach such milestone. We also need to be part of global value chain. 2/3 of the global trade is happening through global value chain, maybe intra-global chain, value chain, or maybe inter-value global chain. Unfortunately, high customs tariff, the lack of FTA, the high logistics costs, lack of customs facilitation has not allowed us to be part of the global value chain. But I think now the time has come as we are integrating more with economies through free trade agreement and comprehensive economic partnership agreement. We are looking into a free trade agreement with Europe. We are talking about one with US also, which are our major market. And if that happens, we will be part of regional value chain as well as the global value chain. So let me say that we have all the wherewithal to be a 5 trillion economy with active support from exports. But for that, we require an enabling and supporting ecosystem. We also have to keep ourselves ready with the rising protectionism in the world. But no country in the world has grown on the tailwinds of a favorable economic condition. We have to propel our own weight, and that's why a Latin saying says that if there is no wind, row. So if India has to achieve 5 trillion mark, we have to row, row and row. Thank you very much.